The Lagos State government has announced that it would start to trace the distribution and prices of food items to ensure that consumers are not ripped off. This was disclosed yesterday by the Lagos State Commissioner of Agriculture, Ms. Bisola Olusoya, who represented the state governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, at the 2024 LCCI Agri Symposium and Fair. Olusoya said going forward, government has said any support to any farmer has to be with an agreement that will dictate the price at which the product will be sold in the market. The federal, state and local governments invest so much in food production, but we do not follow our investments to the market. She said going forward, the state government's investment should be tailored for the government to know the markets the beneficiaries are selling their products and the landing price in that market compared to their cost of production. I wouldn't want to bring in any analysis here. I just want to find out your thoughts on this story.
Wow, it's part of government requirement.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of what is expected of government to do in order to ensure that price of foodstuffs and then agricultural produce is stable. Thank God that the hardship is beginning to wake up different sectors, and of course the government to now assume their full responsibility as required. Is what doing.
So it hasn't been that way. This is just in Lagos State. Now in other states, in River State, probably when the government has given out grants or funds to agri experts, they usually do not follow. Do they usually follow, you know, the product to the market?
We have said it's time with that number. How would the government follow when most of the beneficiaries are portfolio farmers? You know, people that do not have a site, they don't have farm. So how do you think the government will follow up? So if the government, especially Lagos State government, have not decided to monitor the process down to the market, that means they are not ready to fund the real farmers. And it takes a government that is ready to fund the real farmers to follow the price of produce down to the market.
How sustainable do you think that move would be?
That's another critical point to look at. But I think there is always a beginning point. Let us start first and then see how it goes.
You think it's something that other state governors should take lead from?
Definitely, because we have, I cannot boldly say that there are no persons that are jeopardizing or trying to, you know, make the whole system tougher for the government. There are some that they don't even produce. They take advantage of the producers, they buy these things and then hike the price. You understand the point? So it's something that is commendable, and then every state government that wants to stabilize the prices of agricultural produce and foodstuffs in their state should queue in, release the fund to the real farmers, and then monitor them. That is how the process should be. You don't release fund and then you just go and sit back in your house and expect. Of course, the farmers' knowledge is limited. Most of the farmers are not economists. They are not financial experts. So they also need, you know, guidance in these areas.
But there's usually a provision for monitoring. Because I know that I have seen a process where some people were registering, some farmers were registering for a particular grant at some point, and then from some of the requirements or some of the criteria that they were informed of was that they would be monitored to make sure that they are actually real farmers, doing what they have said they would do. So if there are already provisions for monitoring, then is it any different from what is being mentioned here?
Yeah. You can have a provision for a particular thing, but the implementation becomes a challenge. And that is one of the major issues that we've been noticing our recording when it comes to agricultural policies and all of that. The implementation aspect of it has not been kept, has not been followed by relevant agencies. And then let me quickly say this based on what you just said. Now, you see, once farmers gets or goes to the bank to get a loan for their agricultural business, you discover that the bank do more of follow-up than the government. Once it's government fund and the farmers are aware, you see that lackadaisical attitude. The government do not really monitor the process. And those that also take this loan do not take it very seriously to ensure that the loan is being paid back. But once it has to do with the bank, you see seriousness, and the bank, they must follow you up. So if you notice any serious monitoring once a grant or loan is being released, just take a closer look. You discover that that money is coming from the bank angle, not money from the government.
But from what you have explained now, it looks like even though the money gets to the farmers, amongst the farmers, there's still people who need it and people who don't need it.
Definitely.
Because you have said that even some farmers, even when they get the funds, they're not careful what they're doing. They still don't make, some of them don't even make use of it in their agricultural sector.
Exactly.
So we have farmers who don't need it. So that means, does it mean that they just bring these funds to them?
You know,
do they go to process this fund and still not use it?
Definitely. It happens. And that is where the issue of, you know, the government setting up a very formidable team that will have to monitor how these funds are being utilized is very necessary, is very important in this sense. Now, if the government wants to ensure that the purpose for releasing a particular fund is being actualized, then I don't think ensuring and investigating or thoroughly assessing the feasibility study that the farmer provides will be a difficult task by the government. But you see a situation where people will assess loan and there is no justifiable feasibility study for the amount you are assessing from the government. How do you pay back? How do the government now monitor the process and then recover their fund? Because it is the feasibility study that will tell whoever that is providing that facility, okay, this person knows what he or she wants to do with this fund. And then after critically analyzing or examining the particular paper presented, you now say, okay, yes, we can release so and so amount or we will not release based on what is on ground. But you see most persons assessing this loan, there is no documentation. Once there is a recommendation, he's a farmer, so and so name should be given facility. You see them giving facility, and at the end of the day, the person, once the money comes, will use the money to do what he or she feels is what he needs, and not necessarily what the government released that particular fund for.
Okay, this is an issue now that has been stated, and not a lot of Nigerians are aware of it. How is this affecting the agricultural sector?
Is affecting the system so seriously that even the real farmers are beginning to get discouraged. You know, we say it time without number that there are people that are passionate when it comes to agriculture. People are willing to farm. People are ready to farm. But because of political contact, most of these farmers in rural areas, those that are even providing the food that you and I consume, most of them do not have the political contact. Most of them do not have link to government. And for you to have government facilities, believe me, considering our system, the way things work here, you must have one man, one uncle, or somebody that, you know, have decided to help that is close to the government. Now, since the business is not always very transparent, let me use that word, there must be connection. There is no committee that goes down to the grassroots to identify who these real farmers are. You discover that those that are doing the business are discouraged because they don't receive the facility. You see yourself struggling. You're the one doing this thing. You're the one providing what the same person that is assessing the facility is even consuming, and then you don't have the facility. So is really telling on agriculturists in the country, and especially in South here, where our governors seem not to understand, you know, the role of agriculture in developing our economy.
Why do you say so?
I say so because it's all over. How many industries, agricultural industries, do we have in South? You can't find much. So that's how I came to that conclusion, that they do not understand the role of agriculture in industrialization or developing our economy.
They say South governors are not paying enough attention to agriculture.
They are not. I must tell you that. They are not.
But from your explanation earlier, there was something you said about wanting to, or the farmers, they need to know somebody in government before they can access the loans. Does it mean that it's only people who know people, who have godfathers in the system, that get to access loans?
That's what it seems to be. That is it. Because like I told you, I've said it before, I am a farmer and I've been practicing for over 15 years.
You've never been able to access.
And I've not accessed any facility. I've made the move. I've went to Bank of Agriculture. And I have farms. There was a time Minister of Agriculture came to visit our farm. And the commissioner then were like, you mean something like this is in this state? You mean individual can farm up to this point? As I talk to you, we receive calls from outside the state based on what we're doing. But today, that settings is no longer there. Because we got to the point we never had the capacity to sustain you know, what we were doing, and then to also guide against insecurity. One of the major challenges we had was insecurity. To fence where we were using to farm was a problem. We hadn't the capital, and then, you know, this issue of theft and these hoodlums, how to start visiting the farm with weapons. And one of our security dogs, you know, was killed. And at that point, we felt highly threatened. And we decided to move.
So insecurity with farmers is not just about the farmers and herders?
No, not just about that.
We'll get to talk about that much later. But let's look at the NYSC scheme now.